The healing benefits of psychedelic plant medicines are well documented. But what about the rest of the plant kingdom? And can they heal not just our bodies, but our entire planet? In 2019, the Imperial College of London released a study that found participants who used psychedelics reported an enhanced feeling of connectedness, especially with nature. Our planet is in the midst of a climate crisis. As temperatures rise and ice caps melt, massive wildfires and extreme weather events have become the norm, not the exception. Getting people to simply care about this remains one of the biggest hurdles. So, could the solution involve plant medicines?
All you have to do is turn on the TV to see what's going on. I mean, it's happening, and it's not happening slowly. It's happening rather rapidly. You'd think that would be a wake-up call without psychedelics. There's plenty of reason to be alarmed. But maybe the psychedelics provide an additional boost to help focus people's attention on it.
Meanwhile, our societies are in turmoil, and our mental and physical well-being is being threatened by our own advancements in agriculture and technology.
I think we're in the situation that we're in because we've lost our sense of belonging on this planet. We feel so disconnected from ourselves, from our experiences, from each other, from the earth, and we've forgotten how to connect to that sacredness within us. So we no longer know how to come in a good way and how to be in right relations with all the living beings around us.
Could plants be the teachers we need to guide us into living healthier, more spiritual lives? And if so, can humans and plants come together to save the world, just in the nick of time? Mushrooms, fungi, perhaps no other organism illustrates our planet's potential for interconnectedness.
Most of us are familiar with the fruiting body of mushrooms, but yet underground there's this whole network.
These aren't just roots. This complex web absorbs nutrients and can even break down pollutants, plastic, and even radioactive waste. They can even discern between plants or minerals they come into contact with and make decisions to keep the ecosystem in balance.
We're learning that sometimes the network could be, miles across, and that the plants are actually communicating with each other.
It's believed that the so-called mycelium blanket was perhaps the largest connected organism on the planet, a vast interconnected underground network of fungi. But as mankind built roads and tilled the soil for crops, underground connections in this network were severed, effectively isolating large and varied ecosystems from one another. What does this suggest about the potential for plants' intelligence?
The way that we define the word intelligence is usually in the realm of human experience. But we can look at other organisms on this planet as having a kind of intelligence that is just different from the way that we operate. Plants have a kind of intelligence that surpasses a lot of the things that we can do as humans.
In December of 2020, the New York Times Magazine published a story about how trees can form mycorrhizas, underground partnerships with fungi to communicate with each other. These networks can span entire forests and even link trees of separate species.
I think plants are not just intelligent, but brilliant. I think they may be far more intelligent than humans, in fact. To understand that there is a threat, to understand exactly what they need to create to deal with that, to maybe attract another predator to get rid of this predator, or to impair the fertility of this particular predator that's right there at that time. That tells me that plants really understand how to interact with their environment in very rapid and intelligent and careful and brilliant ways.
I'm fond of saying that these psychedelic plants are a sort of Gaian ambassadors. They are one of the mechanisms that the biosphere is bringing forward to try to, again, wake up our species. They're catalysts, and there's co-evolutionary aspects to this. We have been co-evolving with these plants for millennia, really, and now all of a sudden, something like ayahuasca has escaped from the Amazon and it's spread across the world. Or something like cannabis, which before was, kind of suppressed and vilified. Now it's everywhere. So maybe the biosphere, Gaia, if you will, recognizes that it's in great peril. So this may be one of the ways that it responds, by sort of bringing these plants forward, bringing them into our attention. And this is not unlike the way any ecosystem will respond to a threat.
Trees are conscious. They understand things, and they even respond to different stimuli depending on threat and stuff like that, and they warn each other. So there's a consciousness in these plants that when you smoke them, when you eat them, you get a download of that consciousness. And even if it's just a glimpse, you get a glimpse of the ancient history of this earth. You feel the ancestral lineage when you touch these plants. It's like a way of reconnecting to our ancestors, to Mother Earth in a way that most people don't really understand.
It's important to remember that we all share this common ancestry, the neurotransmitters in our brain that drive consciousness. The so-called monoamines like serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and now DMT, which we know is a neurotransmitter. These were all widespread in nature and had signal transduction functions in ecosystems before there were any complex mammalian nervous systems.
Many believe that another way we can reconnect is to develop an understanding of spirits residing within a plant.
The word deva has been used in different ways in different cultures over time. But here, in reference to the idea of a plant entity, we can see the deva is like the spirit behind the scenes of a certain species of plant. So there might be a deva for mint, or a deva for sunflowers, or a deva for the cannabis family. And each of the plants that grow are like cells of this larger being or field of intelligence. And we can see this in even insect species like ants or bees. They have an underlying deva that they are all a part of, and they operate like a group mind. And they collectively work together for the symbiosis of Gaia.
Is it possible, as our ancestors believed, to connect with the spirit of a plant family and to gain access to its healing powers?
Certain plant devas are specifically operating in the realm of affecting human consciousness. And since they exist in a kind of unity consciousness state, when we ingest these plants, we can entrain to the frequency of this deva or the consciousness underlying this plant. And this is an amazing experience for the human because we can see what it's like to experience a kind of group mind. Not only with the symbiotic nature of our planet Gaia, but also with other humans. And this experience can help humans to connect with each other in a way that is almost like a telepathic grid of unity consciousness. And this alone could help us to solve many of the problems we face as a species.
These devas are believed to be present in plants of all kinds. Shamans and medicine workers use psychedelics for deep healing. But the devas found in many other types of plants can be used to heal, enhance, and energize. Gotu kola is used for energy and mental alertness. Ginkgo biloba helps with memory. Betel nuts are chewed for digestion and mental acuity. These are considered adaptogens.
Adaptogens are plants that can help us acclimate to different situations. So, for example, an adaptogen might help us calm down when we're feeling stressed. But it could also help us to sleep when we have insomnia. But it could also give us more energy.
Adaptogens like astragalus, ashwagandha, ginseng, turmeric, and even small dosages of cannabis can aid the body and mind in adapting to stress, something that isn't in short supply these days.
A lot of the adaptogens grow under very adverse conditions. I think of rhodiola. This is a plant that grows in a very northern climate and survives all this adversity. The plants that grow under adverse conditions, like in the Arctic Circle in Siberia, they figured out the key to survival and adaptability. And by imbibing them, it can help us acclimate. We should also be looking at the dandelion, because here's a plant that we disdain, and yet nobody planted it, nobody watered it. They mow it down and it still comes back just a little shorter the next season. I feel that one thing we really need to partner with is some of these plants that have adapted to adversity, and by imbibing thus, it's going to help us have those Jedi superhero skills so that we can adapt and acclimate, be like the dandelion.
Our ancestors developed methods and theories around the use of herbs. One such practice, developed by the ancient Greeks, was referred to as the doctrine of signatures.
The doctrine of signatures has been used by humans since the beginning of time to determine the effect of a plant or a food on the human body in healing or in medicinal value. For example, a carrot, if you cut it, it looks like an eye. And the carotenoids in the carrot are good for the eyes. Walnuts look like the brain, and we know now that, yes, they are good for the brain. Horsetail looks like hair. It's got silica in it, and it is good for the hair. So this is the meaning of the doctrine of signatures.
The continued growth of the internet, even in remote regions, has encouraged more sharing of herbs and plants from all over the world. With more accessibility to botanical cultures than before, some in the scientific community have started to study the synergy that can occur between different plants.
Plant medicines have been used by millions of people for thousands of years. And to research that and look at something that can actually help nourish us as well as heal us might be a wiser choice than something that just suppresses the symptoms.
one doesn't always need a full psychedelic experience to access some of the healing and connecting properties of plant medicines.
Microdosing allows people to have contact with this medicine in small amounts and to gain some of the neuroplasticity benefits. They can have experiences where they feel more creative, more relaxed, more flexible. And it can be profound for some people who are very stuck, but they don't have to do this more dramatic experience.
Microdosing works differently depending on the person. The frequency, the amount that people take, even how many times they take it during the same day. One cannot microdose with everything. The two most useful microdosing are with mushrooms and LSD. Some people do it with a bit of iboga or a bit of peyote. Microdosing is very valuable and needs to be studied further.
Macrodosing is the classic trip experience where you have the full psychedelic experience for several hours. The benefit of a macrodose is you have full ego dissolution. You don't have any defenses. You are going to have to dive into this immersive experience and have a period of full surrender. Surrender is medicine. That is a powerful medicine that can touch you in ways that nothing else can.
And surrendering to nature may be the best way to fight back against the forces trying to destroy it. Our fraught relationship with technology was in some ways foretold. Beginning in 1891, Rudolf Steiner warned of electromagnetic radiation, insisting the spiritual aspirant would need twice as much fortitude to accomplish the same amount of spiritual work.
We're being forced to adapt to the technology, but technology is not entirely bad. It can serve humanity and has done so. But like Rudolf Steiner and many others promoted that we need to create spiritual science. We need to create technology that does not endanger the existence of humanity, to create more chaos and addictions and abuse, creating reality for people, so social engineering, and to realize the consequences and to create technology and the right way to further ourselves, to maybe at some point we can bypass this form of technology that can endanger us and realize the old technologies that the ancients used, which is to figure out what else Earth can serve us with.
Steiner couldn't possibly have imagined the amount of EMFs we now produce. So how can spiritual aspirants of today live harmoniously in a world of increasing EMF production?
EMF and technologies are wreaking havoc on the human consciousness. Why? Because we're energy machines. There's a lot of electromagnetics at work within us, in the brain, in the heart, in the rest of the body. So when we're subjecting to Wi-Fi, when we close to every plug in the wall that's 60 hertz, it's interfering in human consciousness, in the living machine that we are, and we're having to adapt to it very quickly. To cell towers, and now there's a great concern with 5G. Maybe the fact that we're interested in profit is getting us to overlook what the long-term exposure and what the consequences are.
Can the plant kingdom have some kind of assistance or defense? Many herbalists, researchers, and healers believe the answer is yes. One doesn't need to travel to the Amazon to acquire these beneficial plants. Many can be found in your pantry, supermarket, or even your backyard. And research suggests that ginger, turmeric, and citrus can mitigate the effects of radiation exposure. And the mere introduction of plant material into the water we consume can have profound effects. Konstantin Korotkov's BioWell technology measures biophoton emissions and shows readings before and after drinking water infused with plants, like tea, essential oils, or flower essences.
Konstantin Korotkov used his BioWell device to measure the biophotons emitted from the human energy field before, during, and after the ingestion of ayahuasca. And it was amazing to note that during the experience of the plant medicine, there was almost no visible field around the body. And after the experience, there were still large holes in it that took a while to reconstitute. And this showed us how these plant medicines open us up to view the higher realms and have expanded states of consciousness. But it also indicated that after the experience, it is good to leave some time to let the auric or the biofield regenerate itself. And there are things that we can do, such as visualization or prayer or a salt bath or time in nature to help the process of the reconstitution of the field.
The major problem in the world now is alienation. We are disconnected from our own bodies, we are disconnected from each other, we are disconnected from nature. So returning spirituality into the industrial civilization, I think it's the most effective, most powerful, most hopeful way of dealing with the crisis, the global crisis that we have lost. We have lost effective spirituality. We have organized religions, but they became very fundamentalist. And it's amazing that the industrial civilization managed to just completely suppress it, including things like killing shamans in different countries, stopping these different religions, in many instances replacing really relevant native spirituality.
The ancient keepers of plant wisdom, such as witches, shamans, and healers, are nearly gone. But institutions are slowly rediscovering what our ancestors intuitively understood. Balance with nature is not only better than endless economic growth, but essential to our survival.
Wherever you live, if you live in an apartment or you live in a house, you're an autopilot, intuitively connected to your whole home and how it works. How do you open the garage or whatever it is? That might be a mystery to somebody that's never lived in that kind of circumstance. The indigenous cultures, they live in nature. And so that's their influence. Nature is this incredible teacher. So when you immerse yourself in that, you learn more about that. You learn more about yourself. You understand more about what it is to be alive here on this earth. And so when you don't have that, what a disconnect that is from the cosmos. It's massive.
Depression, anxiety, trauma. The pace and pressures of the material world can lead many down a path that leaves them feeling isolated. For those that have lost their way, is it possible that psychedelic plant medicines can reintroduce the notion of being one with nature?
We're right on the cusp of ecological devastation and of biological extermination. And if we don't open up to this consciousness, to get back to Gaian consciousness, we're going to die.
I think we are out of balance with the masculine, feminine energy. That overly masculine is overly intellectual, overly materialistic, overly objective. And so there's a big turn right now, a shift to recognize the feminine. Plant medicines can help foster our access to the feminine, our reverence for the feminine.
The clock is ticking. Is there any hope that the world can come into harmony with nature the way our ancestors once lived?
Anything that can help us to have more humanitarian aspects, caring for others, caring about the survival of our children, about the planet, rather than only what's going on right now, is really imperative.
Understanding the power of Gaia may be the key.
Sacred psychoactive plants can serve humanity. They have always been here, provided by our dear planet Gaia, to help us awaken. And now they are resurging to share their medicine with us at this time.
So, how we go forward may truly be up to us. Are we at a quantum timeline choice point, as many ancient cultures believed?
There are many cultures that have pointed to this time in history as a kind of timeline bifurcation, as a possibility of what we might experience. The Aztecs, the Hopi prophecies, modern Dom and Her Federation, and many others say that at certain junctures in history, there can be like a bifurcation of the timeline, which means like a quantum splitting of realities. And there might be some reality that exists where AI takes over the planet and biology as we know it fades out. And another reality where humans go to the next level of their evolution of symbiosis with the Gaian supermind and with each other. We have to realize that we have more power than we realize to create the reality we want to live in.
It's important to think about this matter of self-empowerment. The power is within us. The plant medicines just help us to discover that power.
We need to understand who we are, to bring spirituality into the shamanic experience, to not empower things outside of us, which we are trained to look for a savior, for extraterrestrial, for a prophet, for an avatar who's going to come and save us. We are the ones that we're going to save ourselves, but we need to upgrade this, and we need to use what we know of psychedelics to really understand that words create reality.
Perhaps only a radical expansion of consciousness can reveal the solution to an urgent and growing threat.
I think the most important thing that we need to do is to recognize that we need to function in partnership with nature. We're not the owners of nature, and that nature is really running the show. We need to accept that and behave in such a way that supports the flourishing of life on Earth, supports the evolution, the co-evolution.
The first and most important thing is to remember that we are in relationship with the plant world. They are our family. They're our kin. They're our friends. They're our teachers. We want to approach the plants as though they are respected and beloved members of our family with wisdom to impart. They're our elders. That means we want to come in a place of gratitude, of appreciation, of awe, and of wonder. We want to come with offerings, whether it's to the soil, to the plants, with songs, with celebration. And then we just need to learn to listen.
What I believe Gaia truly means is not just a feminine spirit. It's a type of intelligence that is connected to the ultimate feminine archetype, which is nature.
We cannot do anything to nature that doesn't happen to ourselves. If you work with people with holotropic states, they develop a sense of spirituality that's universal, that's all-encompassing, that's ecumenical. Those are all characteristics that would help our survival as a species, if it could happen on a large enough scale. Now, whether it can happen on a large enough scale and whether we have enough time, that's a question. I mean, I have seen that transformation in hundreds of people, literally.
The global initiative to restore our relationship with Gaia, with nature, with ancient knowledge, and with plant medicine is not a regression. It is a move forward to reconnect with a technology that has been with us since the very beginning. It could be that the use of psychedelics is an ancient tool to access the consciousness of the future, the consciousness of Mother Earth.